Greetings and welcome to the channel. If you're new, it's great to have you here, and if you're a returning viewer, I apologise for the lack of recent content. I've been going through some stuff that I'll elaborate on some other time. Basically, sometimes real life gets in the way. Anyway, to get back into the groove of video making, I thought I'd talk to you about some new releases and some old favourites in a more relaxed fashion. I thought this week I'll take a look at Saw 10, seeing as how number 11 has just been announced for 2024. The Saw series has one of those odd timelines that starts out with sequential numbers and then thinks, balls to this, time for some nonsense. So we've got Saw 1 to 6 being Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Then number 7 was called Saw 3D, or Saw the Final Chapter. Saw 8 was Jigsaw. And the attempt at a spin-off movie, being Spiral from the Book of Saw, is now considered number 9. I assume this was done to give the return to the mainline series a big punchy X to put on the posters. The latest instalment in the Saw franchise was released Halloween season 2023, and at the time of recording smashed its $17 million budget with a box office of $136 million. The movie was directed by Kevin Greutert, who also helmed Saw 6 and 7. Saw 3D is actually one of my favourites in the series because it was so unashamedly wacky and silly. Now don't get me wrong, it's not good, but I found it to be immensely entertaining. The movie features some ridiculously gory set pieces and crazy story beats. If you like it when the series goes off into the wacky territory, you should really enjoy Saw 7. The movie was co-written by Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger. As I understand it, this team has writing credits for Jigsaw and Spiral. Which is interesting for me as Jigsaw is down at the bottom of my Saw movie tier list and Spiral is up near the top. Now at this point I'd normally say something like mild spoilers ahead. I'll mention things that were in the trailer, blah blah blah, but have you seen the fucking trailer? I imagine you might, as it's had 36 million views. The bloody thing pretty much gives everything away. Now I know it's difficult in the digital age to keep story beats under wraps, but they could at least have tried. I'm guessing the marketing committee decided to lean into giving away the story because their research shows that audiences come to Saw movies for the traps and gore, not pesky annoyances like narrative and character development. So I'll talk through the movie, but leave out details and surprises that aren't in the spoilerific trailer. If that's too much info for you, no problem. Like the video, go watch the trailer or movie, then come back and hear my thoughts and leave a comment to let me know what you thought of Saw 10.
Out of all the men to cheat, you picked John Kramer?
Saw 10 is essentially the early days of John Kramer's Jigsaw project and the things that happen to him while he's dealing with the diagnosis of a brain tumour. John meets up with a friend he made at one of his support meetings who advises him of an off-the-books medical procedure headed up by a revolutionary physician named Dr. Finn Pedersen that might help him for the right price. John speaks to Dr. Pedersen's daughter Cecilia, who runs the clinics, manages to arrange a date for treatment with the under-the-radar medical team. Because they don't use approved methods and are being targeted by Big Pharma, they've decided to keep moving around to stay undetected. John meets the team while they're stationed in Mexico. They're operating out of a large abandoned chemical factory in the middle of nowhere. Just the right size and location for a patented Jigsaw house of pain and revenge. They carry out the cutting-edge treatment. Cecilia then loads John up with post-op meds and sends him on his way with a clean bill of health. Before leaving for home, John decides to return to the clinic to drop off a gift and he discovers the whole operation was flim-flam, which means it's time for some revenge, Jigsaw style. Here we get a complete tonal and stylistic shift. The first 30 minutes has this cold blue palette and a relaxed pace, with the only exception being the obligatory sepia tones for when John arrives in Mexico. Then once the shoe drops and Jigsaw starts his rampage, we get the traditional sickly yellow-green filters and tense close-ups. You could basically watch the first part as a standalone prequel, take a break, grab your snacks and then come back for the main event. Now before we get into this main event, I'd just like to say, if you enjoy this video and what I do, please give it a like. It means a lot to me and it helps the channel move forward. Also, if you have the time, get in the comments and let me know what you think of the Saw franchise as a whole, and what other dark movies you'd like me to take a look at. What follows is 90 minutes of Jigsaw and his team apprehending and playing games with Cecilia and the medical staff who cheated him. This part is the real Saw 10. Guts and gore, Jigsaw traps, lots of close-ups on wounds, and that classic 2000s sickly colour filter. Also, we're reintroduced to Amanda, At this point in her story, she's new to Kramer's teachings and hasn't quite gone all in on the cult of Jigsaw. Every now and again she's given a little humanity and shows signs of sympathy towards her captives. Reflecting on what we've seen in the first act, for me there's no point in trying to humanise John Kramer and his minions. Like most Saw fans, I made up my mind long ago about whether or not Jigsaw is a killer, and make no mistake, he is a killer. I don't care about the "I gave them a chance" nonsense. He's a serial killer who indoctrinates like-minded individuals. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy the ride, of course, I just don't want to side with him. For the rest of the movie, we're treated to Jigsaw's various games. Some simple, some more intricate. Jigsaw makes his way through the supposed medical team, with the idea being to finish off Cecilia with a big finale. While they are interesting, there's nothing here that particularly tops the previous traps for brutality. For me, a particularly memorable one is the one that twists off the victim's limbs one by one before removing his head. However, some of the games have this intimate and personal approach. In some cases, they involve operating on a person's own body parts. It's something that should make you squirm, but in a different way from the previous movies. Along the way, Jigsaw and Amanda have to deal with a few surprises. One of these is Parker, another of Cecilia's patients, who returned to the clinic to get his money back, having discovered there was no surgery performed on him. Jigsaw has to think on his feet with this new complication, and gives the disgruntled Parker a chance to be gruntled and get his money back by being part of the game and witnessing John Kramer's version of justice. The movie then carries on with more games and bloodshed before building up to the big finale chock full of twists and double crosses. Of course, the only problem with the final act is that this is a prequel, and there's no real jeopardy for the Jigsaw crew unless cloning is involved, and at this point I wouldn't be surprised to see that pop up in Jigsaw 11, 12 or Jigsaw Takes Manhattan. We assume John and Amanda will walk away in one piece, and they do. At the end of the movie, Jigsaw and his apprentice emerge into the light of the morning and the credits roll, although make sure you wait for the mid-credit sequence that wraps up a dangling plot point, and who knows, it might even hold one last surprise. In the end, this is a decent Saw movie, and considering the writer-director team are responsible for movies 6 to 9, I think things are developing quite nicely. Performances were good and I think everybody seemed to understand the brief. In movies like this, you play to the back row, there's no room for understatement. The film looked great and was shot with a style that's consistent with the other Saw movies. The sound design was basic but pretty effective. I especially liked all the clicks and whirs of the gears and traps, as well as all the wet squelches of body parts as they were eviscerated. In terms of structure and runtime, I've got a few notes. The whole thing was just too long for this kind of movie. When it comes to Saw movies, pace is your friend. Keep things snappy and surprising. The movie is nearly 2 hours long, and the prologue takes about 30 minutes. Now, Tobin Bell is great, but to reiterate what I said earlier, stop trying to make me like Jigsaw. His actions are indefensible, and half an hour spent on heartstring-pulling backstory was just too much for me when juxtaposed against the gory fun 90-minute Jigsaw ride. I give Saw 10 6 terrible Amanda haircuts out of 10. As much as I love Tobin Bell as Jigsaw, I really don't know how many more entries can or should be made with this character. And to be honest, I really hope they don't keep pushing prequels into the series. Let's move forward with this extended cast and do something surprising for the next instalment. Once again, please give this video a thumbs up and comment below if you enjoyed my work. It's free for you and it means a great deal to me. Check out the recommendations for more dark content from yours truly. Thanks and stay spooky.